Well, folks, welcome. I don't want to keep us too long, and hopefully Dr. Murad will be here momentarily. And so I'm actually subbing today in for Cindy Beth, who visioned this occasion for us all as the chapel closest to Valentine's Day. She really wanted to make this kind of a love chapel in some ways, and so I'm going to use her words here. She said, I wanted to invite people to read selections on love because we are approaching the February holiday, but also because in the midst of everything else, one of the ways to resist is to continue to show and share love. Love for ourselves and love for each other. In inviting people today, I asked them to select a reading on love of family, animals, God, the country, the earth, romantic love, or children. Hallmark has pegged Valentine's for romantic love, but for me, it is about all kinds of love. It seems like we need to lean into and celebrate all kinds of love. As I write this, I hear in my head the words of the great Beatles song, All You Need Is Love. I'm not naive enough to think that all we need is love, but I feel certain that leaning into love is going to help us in this very complex time. And so Cindy Beth is going to lead us into our readings on love with a poem by Wendy Cope called The Orange. And she first heard about this poem from a former colleague here at United, MJ Luna. And so this is The Orange. At lunchtime, I bought a huge orange. The size of it made us all laugh. I peeled it and shared it with Robert and Dave. They got the quarters and I got the half. And that orange, it made me so happy, as ordinary things often do. Just lately, the shopping, a walk in the park, this is peace and contentment. And it's new. The rest of the day was quite easy. I did all the jobs on my list and enjoyed them and had a little time left over. I love you. I'm glad I exist. Wendy Cope. I was thinking, like tasting an orange is like tasting sunshine. And so I would like to continue these stories of love by inviting Dr. Murad, who has joined us to share a bit of reflection on love.
Greetings, everyone. Peace and love to you all. I shall read some verses from the famous troubadour of love, Rumi. Verses on the animating force of love, the cosmically animating force of love. Love is an infinite ocean on which the heavens are but a flake of foam. They are distraught like Zuleika in desire for a Joseph. Know that the wheeling heavens are turned by waves of love. Were it not for love, the world would be frozen. How would an inorganic thing disappear into a plant? How would vegetative things sacrifice themselves to become endowed with spirit? How would the spirit sacrifice itself for the sake of that breath by the waft whereof a Mary was made pregnant? Each one of them would be as stiff and immovable as ice. How should they be flying and seeking like locusts? Every mote is in love with that perfection and hastening upward like a sapling.
Thank you, Dr. Murad. Keep the saplings moving. Nita Johnson, what do you think about love?
I have a children's book to share called Daddy Speaks Love. And this is written by Leah Henderson, illustrated by Evie Lewis. This book was written to honor the special bond that a father and a child share. It was inspired by the words of George Floyd's 6-year-old daughter, Gianna, when she said, "Daddy changed the world." The author hopes that we may all find ways to speak love to each other and each and every day. So Daddy Speaks Love. I don't know. See this? On that very first day, bundled in blankets, you cried to be heard. "Shush, baby bird, I've got you," are Daddy's first words. Daddy speaks love when he answers endless questions and makes 1,000 plans. New adventures await us morning till night. Days full of tree climbs, the longest hikes, of tea parties, painted nails, doing whatever we like. Daddy speaks truth, not ignoring slips, spills, or scratches. They are part of life, little one. Go ahead, make mistakes. Daddy speaks joy in tickles and giggles, squishy hugs we share. When Daddy speaks comfort, I'm so glad he's here. Shadows slip away as he tucks me in tight. Monsters will vanish as he wishes me good night. Daddy speaks learning when he says, "Listen up. This world isn't always fair. This world isn't always kind, and this you will need to know." He speaks what he has seen. He speaks because he must. Daddy speaks heroes and the dream of a world that cares that people of all colors are treated fair. For families to feel welcome, to come to no harm. He understands we all need safety, protection, and space to belong. Daddy speaks future and of history's long, long past. For Black lives to matter, for compassion and change that will last. Daddy speaks unity. Daddy speaks trust. When he says equal, he demands it for each and every one of us. When Daddy speaks pride, he shouts it loud, his fist raised high, his focus ahead. Daddy will always speak out. When my daddy speaks love, he teaches love too. Speak your mind, baby bird, and remember, I've got you. Now we speak together, out in the world, side by side, his hand in mine. Thank you, Daddy, for always being my guide.
Snaps. Thank you. Vonda Pearson. What are your thoughts on love?
Thank you, T. Michael. I would like to share a favorite quote from Sri Nisargadatta on love of self. And I see Moonjed smiling, which it's lovely to see everyone's faces on screen and in the chapel. So here's a favorite quote. All you need is already within you. Only you must approach yourself with reverence and love. Self-condemnation and self-distrust are grievous errors. Your constant flight from pain and search for pleasure is a sign of the love you bear for yourself. All I plead with you is this: make love of yourself perfect. Deny yourself nothing. Give yourself infinity and eternity, and discover you do not need them. You are beyond.
Thank you, Vonda. Wow. Dr. Wheeler, what are your thoughts on love?
To share an excerpt from Bernard Loomer's famous essay, The Size of God. Bernard Loomer was a mid-20th century process philosopher. He writes, love does not create our essential interrelatedness. Love is an acknowledgement of it. We love because we are bound to each other, because we live and are fulfilled in, with, and through each other. We love because a failure to love is a denial of the other, ourselves, and our relatedness. It results in a diminution of all of us, including God. We respond to the suffering of another because he is another and because he is suffering. But this does not tell the whole story. When we reach out toward the other in sympathy or compassion or love, we acknowledge our oneness with the other. His suffering becomes, in part, our suffering. His impoverishment diminishes us. Our response becomes his resource. In responding appropriately to the other, we are both fulfilled through the act, and life within the web of relationships is advanced. All the religious virtues are virtues of relationships. Love is obligatory because we are members of one another, and because we are all members of the web of interconnectedness within which we all live. The notion that we are to love God and each other because God loves us has force, because our lives are bound up with each other and with God, and because God's life is bound up with ours.
It's almost like, according to Loomer, you don't have any choice but to love if you're going to be human, right?
There's a choice.
I know, but it's like you're going to engage in the experiment of humanity.
That's right.
Then love.
To not love is to be out of harmony with reality.
Yeah. That deserves some snaps. Grace out there. What do you have for us about love?
I have a poem. So this is by Rosemary Watola Traumer. And this is called In a Dangerous Time. I think of the bones of the unsung rib cage, the way they protect the heart, how bone too is living, how it constantly renews and remakes itself. I think of how ribs engage with other ribs to expand, to contract. And because they do their solid work, they allow the heart to float. This is what I want to do, to be a rib in this body of our country, to make a safe space for love. This is so much now that needs protection. I want to be that flexible, that committed to what's vital, that unwilling to yield.
Um, so I wonder, is there any reflections on anything we've heard or another spontaneous reflection on love from anyone else on Zoom? What have you heard from each other? What is sustaining your love in these days?
Can I say that I appreciate, well, so often when we think of what's worth loving, we think of the heart, that which receives the center of our attention is normally the heart when we think of love. I'm grateful to Grace for turning our attention to the ribs.
Hello, friends. It feels like we're living in a time of a deficit of love. And it makes me think that we're asked to love, but how do we love? And it makes me think of what I consider the corollaries of love, which are courtesy and thoughtfulness and patience and kindness and all these things that we express our love to others. And it's just a reminder of how, for myself, how I need to continue to do all of those things with each person that I meet, because that's how I show my love for them.
Thank you, Reed.
Holding this tension of you can't love on your own, there's this interconnectedness, but also that you need to love yourself.
Yeah.
Have a healthy sense of respect for yourself. And I'm also thinking that it's Galentine's Day from the TV show Parks and Rec. And as silly as that show is in many ways, it really emphasizes this need for this community, this friendship. That love can be grounded in, and I think supports them how to love others outside of their friendship.
Thank you, Jen. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking about that image of the ribs that just really stood out to me, like that strong love that protects, like a mother protects her children from danger. And I also thought about the image of like yelling at somebody because they don't agree with us, or because we think they're wrong, or they're doing things that are hurting people, and like how that might not be effective. So how to be strong but yet show strong love in a way that doesn't cause more division.
Thank you, Jen. So somewhat early in my ministry, I was serving a church in Providence, Rhode Island, and I was, teaching a very large confirmation class, all this stuff about God and things. And part of my curriculum that I had chosen was to do one-on-ones with all the kids as they processed whether they were going to choose to do confirmation or not. Because I always want to give a good out if they wanted to not want to do it, and to give that option in a big way. And I mean, so, and I learned that from some probably much wiser person than myself. I never have original thoughts, but the idea that spending time, showing up, being present was a big part of ministry. And so even though I had great theological teachers and professors in my life and in different degrees, this one day, this 14-year-old kid, this young woman, taught me more about life than I think I'd ever learned before. And she was a kid of great privilege. Her parents were both PhDs from Ivy League schools. One taught at Brown, the other was the head of a charter school or like a big private school. And they were just very educated, very with it family, really nice people and members of my congregation. And so we got together and we talked about confirmation and she says, yeah, I think I want to do this because it's been a interesting path to learn about all this stuff. And I said, well, what's going on? And she said, well, my parents just gave me everything I needed. You know, they taught me all kinds of important things about family and relationships and education and all the kind of different things. My dad's a great cook, he taught me how to cook, but it wasn't until I came to church that I learned how to love. And you taught me how to love myself and how to love people I didn't know and how to love the environment. And it's changed me. I was like, wow, you got all that from stuff we said in class, confirmation class. She goes, yeah, I didn't think I knew how to love until and I didn't know about God until I came to this class because that wasn't part of her family's life earlier. And so it became kind of a mantra for me that the community gathered is a place where we learn how to love. And so I think that has impacted me in a single moment more than many other experiences is this place where we learn how to love. And so and I'm thinking of her. I thought of her when Cindy Beth started this process, and then like a couple of days ago I got a Facebook message that she turned 42 years old. So made me feel a little bit oh wow. But just really grateful for that person who continues to find new ways to love. Pretty central.
Think of the writing of Bell Hooks a couple of springs ago. Rye and Stella ordered a bunch of books on how to love, and Bell Hooks, who has suffered many indignities along the way, coming from an Appalachian area, talks about love not as feeling, but as practices, as intention, as discipline, as an act of will, and moves it past any notion that it is feeling alone. And I found I had not revisited that book for a long time. And just to plunge into that again was for me a good exhortation.
Yeah, I was thinking about the path to being a teacher as a loving, path of discipleship. And that's probably been, one of the harder parts of becoming a spiritual leader is like owning your ability to teach someone something from a place of your own integrity and knowing in God's gift for you that you have something to offer and and just like noticing, when, kind of on this path of becoming a teacher that you yell and complain and get pissed, until you sort of, I feel like, fortify that voice that says it differently, you know, in a teaching manner. And it just the way that it can be heard, because now there's like a path of connection that you're able to build.
If I can add yet again, I think the Dr. Wheeler is exemplary in his turning to what we read in class for contemplating love. And although so many things that get called philosophy, I think should be called misosophy, it's worth recalling the etymology of philosophy. A philosopher is a lover of wisdom.
Yes. Indeed.
We love you, Moon
Yeah,
Jin.
it's the love and wisdom, when they come together, you never know what's gonna happen. Thank you so much. Would we all be philosophers? Right? To bring love and wisdom at the center of our being and belonging to each other and to this community. And today we celebrate as community the new tenured professor on our faculty, the Reverend Dr. Justin Saviatanis.
Yeah.
Remember, he's got two of them. What?
In Germany, they always name how many doctorates that you
Yeah,
have,
yeah.
so it's Herr Doctor.
So it's the Reverend Dr.
Reverend Dr. Yeah.
So, but yeah, congratulations, Justin. We love you, and so. So, and in the words of, I'm going to close with Thich Nhat Hanh, who encourages everyone on the planet to follow in the fasting traditions of many Eastern faiths. When you sit in front of your next plate, love your food. Love your environment, for there has been sacrifice along the way that brings it to nourish your life. We can practice love of these morsels, then our whole body becomes alive in God. Thank you, Thich Nhat. And thank you all for coming to this particular Love Chapel. In the coming weeks in chapel, the worship class at United will be leading chapel as part of their learning environment, is to experiment with new ways of worshiping and leading community. And then we're going to have some senior chapels bless us with graduating wisdom and love from those folks who are heading in. So we've got a great series of chapels lined up for the rest of the term, and as well as chapel every day during a symposium. So we're pretty excited. So thank you all. Much love.
Thank you.